Let me say a few words. Welcome to the public session on the PolyUrban Conference Day 2 on the water for the future in Southeast Asian cities. And for our session today, we have 4 presentations and then roundtable discussions. A little bit of logistic issue first. We would like to ask everyone to mute your microphone. I think that like there's someone who is still in the background. There's a microphone on. So that is a management for that. Everyone should choose a language so that like no one can be in the off channel. Everyone has to choose English or the other language. We have the Khmer and Indonesians available, and mute or original audios. During the roundtable discussion, we have to ask everyone to mute your video so that like we can see the speaker clearly on the screen. The question raised to the chat, we will feed you in and we're going to pick up some to repeat to our presenters. And when you asking a question, please identify yourself, name, institution, so we can help with connecting with the information. So let me introduce a few words about the session today. So as we know that like the Sustainable Development Goals, we listen to the keynote related with our projects is on the localized on the 6th and the 11th on the water and sanitation and the urban areas, where we had that like regarding the targets on the achieving the universal and equitable access to safe and affordable drinking water, and also equitable sanitation and hygiene for all. This for 2030s. Regarding the target 11, the SDG 11, municipal and other waste management, and also management of the green and public space is the target that like inside the SDG 11. Last but not least, the one related with the resource efficiency, mitigation and adaptation to climate change is also in the target 11B. That's very much relevant for our session today. So a little bit of study regarding the achievement so far on the target on water and sanitation. We can see that like many urban areas has made a steady progress regarding the waters, safe water, drinking waters. But the challenge so far is still on the least developing country or the other rural areas on that. Not as good as the safe water, the sanitation. There's a big gap in the target toward 2030s. For example, in Vietnam, the target for 2020 is 20% of wastewater got collected and treated, but the current status is just about 12 to 13% got collected and treated, and depend on the cities. Challenges remaining a lot on the management and the financial resource and the planning and policy for the affordable and innovative technology to address those things. So our session today, we listen to 4 speakers and they're going to present some information on the different cities and different studies from Southeast Asian cities and countries. We love to listen from them, but now I would like to introduce the co-host of the session, Professor Lars Ribbe, the Dean of Faculty for Spatial Development and Infrastructures, and Professor for Integrated Land and Water Resource at the TH Kern. He will elaborate a little bit more on our session today. Professor Lars Ribbe, please.
Yeah, good morning from Germany and good afternoon to Asia. I'm happy to be co-host of this session and happy to be part of this consortium of the PolyUrban Waters project. And perhaps if you look at the 2 sessions, I also introduced very nicely the general concept by Philip Misselwitz. We have a first session which is perhaps putting a little bit more emphasis on the urban development aspects, and the second one, as Trinh said, related perhaps more to the SDG 6 goal, if we think in SDGs, that is putting a little bit more emphasis on the role of water in cities. And if you look at the role of water in the past, we have perhaps had a concept of water as a sector. No? We talk about water supply, we talk about sanitation, perhaps we talked about flood risk management and drainage, but now we realize that water is so much more. Actually, it should be so much more. No? Water is actually an element in the urban design process, and it's also an element of social development at large. So we are definitely seeing the connection of water to health. This has been elaborated nicely in the first sessions. We also see a very important role of managing water in the context of climate change. You know, if you think about climate change adaptation, if it comes down to it, we are actually looking at water as a very important part. You know? Floods, droughts, but also heat islands. At the end, you need some water that evaporates to cool parts of the city and so on. So that is a little bit the perspective that we are now looking at, and we see it as a big challenge, but also as a big opportunity for urban development. And perhaps a few words on the ideas that we have in the context of the PolyUrban Water project. And I would like to just name two words, you know, that for us are central, you know, and it has been also elaborated a bit in the first sessions. And the first is the role of data. You know, we are aware of the fact that at the end we need knowledge. Knowledge is coming from some kind of information, you know, that is ultimately generated by data. So we would like to emphasize the need to create data for decision making, you know, or from data to decision, so to say. So that is a very important aspect where we see a role of us being a university. Definitely we are in the role of generating knowledge, also sharing knowledge. So this is the classical function of research and education, but perhaps more also in a much more systematic way of transferring knowledge and providing the knowledge that is needed in the local context. I think this is our role. The second word that I would just like to mention is the word open. So open for us is I would say a paradigm, you know, that we are following, and this starts with open science. Open science is a huge opportunity for these kinds of knowledge systems that we want to create. It's open data. Again, the word data is here, but of course also open source tools and methods that are elaborated wherever in the world are made available through the open source idea to the rest of the world. And then it continues with the idea of open education, open educational resources. Again, a huge potential to bring knowledge exactly to the point where we need it. And last but not least, and this is perhaps the most important point and the most challenging point, it's open innovation. Open innovation is closely related to the idea of connecting innovative ideas and innovation processes at the public level, the private level, and the civil society. Sometimes you also refer to this quadruple helix idea. Then the fourth dimension, of course, is then the scientific community. So that is a kind of system that we have in mind when we are addressing the challenges of not only urban water management, but also urban water management. And with that, just these very few ideas, no, I would like to give back to Trinh to moderate the session and to introduce the speakers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lars. So I would like to introduce our first presenters, Professor and Dr. Thammarat Koottatep. He's the Professor at Environmental Engineering and Management of the Asian Institute of Technology in Bangkok, Thailand. And he's an international recognized professor in vehicle sludge management and sanitation. His presentation today with us is on the title Regulatory Framework for Polycentric Water Resources Management and the Case Study of Wastewater Management in Thailand. Professor Koottatep is also a major scholar in the region regarding the areas of FICO and the sludge management. So we very much appreciate his presentation, and then he's joining us. So I think he's traveling, and then I hope that like he can be available now. Professor Koottatep, Thammarat. Okay, yes, you are on.
Okay, Gamben, thank you very much for your kind introductions that address issue, but unfortunately, it seems the problem with my PC camera that I cannot show, I cannot interact with you with my face. But can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much for that. But this is still a technical problems on my side, and I'm sorry for that. So I think today I just like to address the issue of the regulatory frameworks for the water resources management, and then I like to give a case study on the wastewater management in Thailand, which is not just wastewater, but we try to talk and then touch upon the issue of the fecal sludge management, which is one of the global issues related to the SDGs 6, 6.2, 6.3, I guess. So I'd like to address the ideas that if we talked about the legal framework, our constitutions that empower the ministry to formulate regulation and then the enforcement, and then later that we can issue the laws and regulation related to the management of the wastewater, and then the local authorities right now would be the one who implement, who are the sole responsibility of this kind of a waste management, wastewater management, as well as a fecal sludge management. And then of course they would need more on the capacity building, and also that how to plan, how to manage the project properly. Together with that, the private sectors that provide the service, especially for the fecal sludge treatments or management. The private sector play very important roles on how to collect, on how to transfer and transport the fecal sludge to the disposal site, and then that could be the service of this. But it looked very simple, but if we took into the details for the ideas of that, the wastewater and fecal sludge management framework in Thailand, it is quite complicated. And you may notice here that there are so many laws, so many acts related to the National Environmental Quality Act, Public Health Act, Building Control Act, and Decentralization Act, which different agencies like Ministry of Natural Resources, Environment, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Interior has to coordinate with that, and then the issue would
I think the voice is down. Thammarat.
Do you have any way to contact Thammarat, Johanna? Okay, so his slide presentation is still moving. So, but I think that like the microphone is not working, maybe.
Perhaps
Thammarat.
sending a message, chat message to him.
Trinh, Lars, maybe we can switch the presentations and maybe the next speaker could start already while we are tracking Thammarat's technical problems.
Yes, so maybe that's the next one is going to be Nazmul. So Lars, maybe. Okay, yes, we are switching to Nazmul now. Lars, please.
Yes. Thank you very much. Yeah, so sorry for that, but these things happen, no? So we are much advanced thanks to Corona in digital formats, but sometimes even here we face the problem. So to perhaps wait for him if he can continue after that, we have to be flexible. And I would like to announce now the next speaker, that is Dr. Nazmul Huq. And Nazmul is actually an urban and rural planner, and he's working at the interface of climate change adaptation, resilience, ecosystem services, and human livelihoods. And on that, he is working at the internationally known program ICLE, and he's the head of the Resilience Development Program there, working on issues to foster decision-making for sustainability. So that is, I think, right to the point. And I have to say, I'm proud that Nazmul is our former PhD student, and now he's in a position to share his knowledge and his experience, looking at a way of moving from concept to practice in urban resilience, taking some view on Southeast Asian cities. So thank you very much, Nazmul, and happy to have you in this session, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Professor Lars, Ribbe, and Dr. Trinh, and I'm very much delighted to be here, firstly, and I see many known faces, and it's always very good to be amongst the friends. So it's very nice feeling. And let me share my screen. Is this visible?
Yes, very good. Make it full screen.
Yes, I also needed to demonstrate some resilience from my side because my PowerPoint Microsoft was not working. So I needed to switch to OpenOffice software, which I'm not very much comfortable at, but I'm glad that I finally arranged a presentation. So you might see the presentation visually might not be that much attractive that I would like to be, but anyway, I hope I can convey the message that I wanted to say. So again, today what I will be talking about, the moving from concepts to practice in urban resilience, impressions from Asia. So it is the basic purpose of the presentation is how from resilience being developed as a concept in pure ecology and biology has been transferred actually to societal dimension, and then it's goes beyond the academic dimension and overall development sector, global development sector. They embrace the idea of resilience and how they are translating the concept of resilience in real world development work. So I firstly show how as an ICLE, as an organization which I am representing, being the head of Global Resilient Development Program, is embracing the idea of resilience, and how we are also translating the concept of resilience for urban sustainability as a whole. So just to give you a brief introduction what ICLE is. ICLE is the biggest urban network. I would say we are active in 100 plus countries, and we have more than 2,000 cities, towns, regions, and urban areas as our member, as our network member, and we try to continuously influence the sustainability policy through local actions. So local actions, it can be not necessarily always related to climate action or so on, but it also hosts of action, including urban security. It can be urban poverty, it can be migration, and also can be data and other things. But we see the whole urban context as a holistic entity. So that is why our main aim to promote urban sustainability through a systematic change using a holistic concept. And by doing so, what we are trying to say that urban sustainability is achieved or can be achieved, or the way we see when an urban area or an urban entity or a region or a city can embrace low emission development, when their development process is basically nature-based, when their development philosophy is based on equitable and people-centered development, when their development is somehow resilient and their economy is circular. So only then we can say that a development process is going to be sustainable, and that is why we actively encourage to our member networks, member cities, our associated networks to follow these 5 pathways, because these 5 weekly pathways, we bring these pathways to bring a systematic change through integrated solution. As Professor Ribbe said, that it's water, for example, it's not a sector, rather it's a phenomena, it's a paradigm. So that is how we, every component we see not as part of a silo sector, but rather a component of the whole system. And that is why we try to address all components of the system from a systematic point of view using these 5 pathways. And resilient development being the centerpiece or one of the cornerstones of our sustainability policies, what we try to do resilient development is basically the copybook definition of the resilience that we try to embed in our working philosophy. But one of the main purpose of our resilient development policy is to increase trust between local government and their citizen and their constituencies, because that is what make a city or an urban area really resilient. Because if we do not have the necessary trust between local government and their constituencies, then the people we are working on, they might not get the enough benefits out of the resilient development practices and actions. When we are talking about the resilient development pathways, we always not necessarily follow the academic directions that we went through, that we go through. Like there are hundreds and thousands of resilience framework. But when we are trying to translate all these frameworks into action, into an urban area, we found it not difficult, but it has to be go through some kind of practical steps. So you see one of the very generic kind of practical steps, an action framework of resilient development, which we intentionally try to keep it very simple. Just I request you to look at the very center, where we put how we can achieve a resilient development. So at the core, we have first stage is analyze it, meaning that we'll try to commit and mobilize the resources. We'll try to do some research and set baseline. And then we'll go for act, meaning that we'll develop a strategy, we'll design, and we'll develop a bankable finance project from the local level so that they can reduce their financial burden, and they can reduce their expectation on the national and international government. And thirdly, when implementation comes, implement and monitor. And when the action is done, then we try to accelerate. So acceleration means review and upscale, especially reporting, inspire and advocate, because being a global network, we have very strong advocacy channel. And through this advocacy channel, we try to influence the global process. It can be the climate negotiation, it can be biodiversity negotiation, it can be many other advocacy channels. We try to push through the message that is coming from the case studies, that is coming from the different areas where the actions took place, and share the learnings through peer exchange and different other mechanisms. So in a nutshell, this is a very generic but working structure of resilient development pathway that ICLEI undertook, and this is our basis of working to our member cities, our member networks. So now what I'm trying to show you an example of the project that we are working on. I'm sorry, I think it is not visible, but the project is called Sustainable Cities Impact Program. We call it SCIP. Its goal is to support cities to pursuing integrated urban planning and implementation that delivers global environmental benefits. So the project is funded by JEF program, Global Environment Facilities, with a budget of $45 million for 5 years, and it is being implemented in 9 countries and 23 cities. So you see, in Asian countries where ICLEI is responsible, which I am managing, and from ICLEI World Secretariat, there are 5 Indonesian cities which are part of this program. For example, Jakarta, Semarang, Palembang, Bitung, and Balikpapan. So in those cities, what we will be trying to achieve is integrated urban planning approach. We try to provide cities to access to different networks so that they can learn the best practices. So networks, it can be outside these SCIP cities, outside these 23 SCIP cities, but also other cities where there are some best practices going on. And our intention is to connect those cities so that peer exchange can happen. We are going to offer wide-ranging suite of capacity building services. For example, it can be data, it can be data-driven resilience planning, it can be development of sustainable sectoral planning or combination of planning. It can be helping them to develop their NDC, nationally determined contribution, and so on and so forth. So this kind of wide-ranging of capacity building service this project is going to offer. As I said, it also offers advocacy and contribution to global dialogue from case studies. We are offering multi-level global government coordination, I'll talk in a bit, and accelerated climate ambition at local level. That is one of the main purpose, that will promote local climate actions so that it can really contribute to the global climate movement through innovation, meaning that we are bringing different level of stakeholders together in a participatory approach where we can innovate the ideas and diffuse together. So one particular example that I think I have already said it, what we are going to offer, we are offering, these are some of the offers. For example, we are offering all of our learnings through academies, through labs, through finance academies, and through forums, I have said before. So it can be divided in 2 parts, like capacity building offers and partnership offers. So one particular example that I can show, which is called national dialogue. This national dialogue is going to happen between 2 entities like local and national government to facilitate vertical integration. So the aim is to unlocking enabling condition at the national level for integrated planning and sustainable urban development. And I think this national dialogue process very much aligning to the concept of poly-urban water, where we are trying to bring a different level of governance system presence in a country under a common platform, so that national government is influenced by the local action, local policymakers, and they bring changes in their sustainable urban development policies and planning. And what approach we are trying to follow here, like we call it Talanoa style dialogue process, where we are trying to together see where we are in terms of sustainable development. What do we want to, where do we want to go to achieve sustainable development planning? And the most importantly, how do we get there together? So it means that national dialogue is a very much participatory process, bringing local and ministerial or national actors together to set out the pathways, how we can generate or how we can develop a common style, common policies to unlock the enabling condition for integrated and inclusive sustainable urban development. So this is one of the offers that our project or my project is going to contribute in 5 Indonesian cities as well. So this previously what I said is some kind of translation activities that I have that we are translating as resilience action, but at the same time, globally, there are plenty of resilience actions at city levels going on. So this is what you said, it's called Making Cities Resilient Campaign 2030. This is an initiative initiated by the UNDRR, United Nations Disaster Risk Reduction Forum. And the purpose is to motivate cities to improve them from one stage to another. So in the second line, you see the stage A cities, where the cities will learn where the cities are. Cities will know better. And depending on our purpose is to translate, is to improve cities stages from stage 1 to stage B to stage C. So when a city, they do not have any kind of disaster risk reduction plan or any kind of resilience planning, they are cities A. But our purpose is to convey them, is to provide them some kind of planning so that they can migrate to cities B, where they will have planning, they will have action, and they will implement the action. And when they are going to implement the action, they will be cities C, and then we can say, well, there are some kind of resilience, and whole Making Cities Resilience Campaign 2030 is based on disaster risk reduction approach. So there are plenty of campaigns, there are plenty of initiatives are available globally, which are targeted to bring cities resilience, to improve cities resilience. And that is how we are trying to translate the concept of resilience at city, urban, and regional level. So moving forward, what is important at this moment, and I can refer what Professor Ribbe said at the beginning, that it is important to translate the lessons, the learnings, the research for the local level. And how can we do that? We know that both academics and the practice area, they are not often very much well connected. But as you see, that the reach of these organizations are like equally, they have a global reach, and they can really go to the local level. And that is how we feel that it is very much imperative that we, the entities, we come together, we start sharing, we start peer learning, and we start a practice of learning from each other, so that we can there is no parallel way of moving forward with resilience. Rather, there is a coordinated way, so that resilience, which is really resilient approach, which is really case study based, which is really reflecting evidence based, can be translated into real world action. So I'll be very happy to share some of our other activities which we are conducting all over the world. I have my address at the beginning of the presentation, and I will be very happy to share in future for any interested. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Nazmul. Very much informative presentation. So we will hold on for some more information and question later on. I would like to invite Professor Thammarat Koottatep again to see whether he's going to be able to fix his microphone. So Joanna, hello. Can you unmute Professor Thammarat? Or yes, I can hear someone saying.
Hello, can you hear me, Tran?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
You are still with us. Yes, good. Okay, good. Please share the screen.
Yeah, but I cannot share the screen yet. Let's still share screen there. Okay. So can you see my slide?
It's yes. Now it's up. Thanks. Okay. The floor is yours. Okay, go ahead.
I'm not so sure that you can hear me when I speak to this slide or not, but I try to continue with that.
One slide before.
Yeah, this one.
Yes, you are here, and then at the end of this.
Yeah. Okay. So I like to start with this slide, that the big complication in the legal framework, institutional framework as well, that the combination between these two systems, this is the the wastewater and fecal sludge that the many ministry working together, but not very successfully. That caused the problem that the implementation of the wastewater on the fecal sludge having the problem. I'm not so sure that you can hear me well because there's some noise in the airport. But anyway, I try to address the issue that this kind of a control of the wastewater and fecal sludge having the problems. I just like to highlight again that the liquid effluent, it is controlled by the Ministry of Environment, whereas the sludge, even if it is from the same tank, from the same toilets, it's have different control by the Ministry of the Public Health. And then the implementation is controlled by the Ministry of Interior. I think that would be something that we need to talk about later, is that the complication on this setting, and then we need to address more. And then we also having a kind of that new development plans and the policies that because of the external circumstance, that the SDG, the global trends and the climate change, that force the Thailand, the government to implement and then think about more how to manage the water resources and also try to address the issue of the SDG. Then this leads to that the long-term plans and in immediate plans that they like to have. For example, that the pollution management strategy and plans, they are saying that they try to more and more decentralize, but the issue with the climate change would be not really good in the sense that they are not really decentralized the budget, but decentralize only the responsibilities. That would be the problems that we are facing right now. Then for the financial aspect, we also having the investment more than the 83 billion baht for 105 centralized system. And then it's not cover 100% the wastewater treatment plants, and because of this kind of very large capital intensive and also having the oversight, then having very few treatment plants that are working well so far. Then the financial aspect, that if we would like to improve or try to have a better treatment or revitalize the system, the treatment plant, then it is very much depends on the environmental fund that will give the funding to the the local governmental agencies, and then with that they will get a certain support from the wastewater management authorities. But this would be the issues that they have not sufficient resources to operate and lacking of the capacity to develop and limited the technical assistance to help planning for the treatment plan. That would be the existing situation. So much worse from the compared with the wastewater treatment system. It is about the fecal sludge treatment plant. We found out that only 20% all over Thailand, we have about 6,000 local authority in Thailand, but only 20% of them having a certain treatment system. And then the 4% of that has subsidized the investment cost, whereas they cannot charge that much for the treatment. They can charge for the collection fees only, and then with the permission fees, which is quite low. So they are not capable to invest more and more the treatment facility of the fecal sludge. However, if you look into the cost recovery schemes, our act also allow that the local authority should have had the treatment fee to charge to the people, but only 18 out of 105 treatment plants can adopt the fees. And then even in the Bangkok, there is no charge to that for the wastewater treatment system. Then we also having a kind of an intensive survey and discussion with many of the stakeholders in Thailand related to the wastewater management. We found out that certain issues that having the results saying that the legislation on the domestic wastewater is a bit quite okay, but not having a very good enforcement so far. And then for the sludge treatment, it would be much worse that they have the Public Health Act, but not really control the quality of the treatment of the sludge. And then the worst would be the financial mechanism and cost recovery. As I told you that we have quite a law to authorize, but no one would like to apply that, to implement that in the field. So there could be protocol issues, and also that the treatment technologies. Recently, we have the study the whole country to study. We only found out only that the very few 20% and then operating the treatment plant well, and then less than 50% can maintain. So that would be the huge problem that we cannot really manage the wastewater and the sludge treatment. Then the key opportunity and recommendation to shift our sanitation from the just having the toilets, but to the safely managed sanitation. We thought of that we should consider the full range of the sanitation option, not just thinking only the centralized, decentralized, or on-site sanitation only, but the combination of these would be the solution that different areas, different urban cities like Bangkok or smaller city, they should have had different kind of solutions. And that's why we need to redefine the sanitation that include the whole change of the sanitation management. And then, of course, the more silver connection would be possible, but the cost would be higher. Then the upgrading the existing on-site sanitation system would be a bit more improvement that right now, I think we would be the one of the very first in Asian countries that having the standard on the decentralized wastewater treatment system. And then further to that, we are hopeful that our tank, our sanitation units should be better if we can have a certain standard to control on-site system, and then we can regulate and then control much better. And then the mixed sanitation approach, we hopeful that the citywide planning should cover the centralized, decentralized, and on-site system and blend together to find out the best appropriate solution for the local actors. Then that's why we need to bridge the sector gaps and then adopting the utility approach for effective wastewater management linked to several agencies. And then the other suggestion would be about the reuse-based technologies that more and more we can try to have only the quality control of the different standards, but not really thinking of the reuse yet. Then the promote of public awareness, also having the issues that not many people realize the problem of the fecal sludge or the uncontrolled the wastewater yet compared with the other issues. And then the private investment would be another options that we can come up with that. There would be interest, but the control, the regulatory framework would not really encourage the private to invest for this kind of wastewater fecal sludge management yet. So that would be my point. And then my final remark would be that the sanitation should be the citywide and inclusive, different demand and the affordability. And then there would be no one size fit for all. We realize that the city, like Bangkok, compared with the small city like in the northeastern part of Thailand, they should not be using the same approach. And then, of course, there would be the different needs, interim and intermediate needs that we can have to meet accordingly. So that would be my presentation. Thank you very much. And then I'm sorry for my technical issues.
Thank you very much, Professor Thammarat Koottatep. I think that is very interesting to know the situation in about the sludge management in Thailand. Is giving us a little bit more information about this current situation and how different management issues. We do not have a chance to have answer the question in the roundtable. Do you have time for that after that? But like we just move forward with our presentation, right? And then we cannot have you at the end of the session today.
Yes, please go ahead with the session.
Yeah. So the next, I think that I invite Professor Ribbe. So I invite Christof to present first.
Yeah, thank you very much, Trinh, and also Thammarat. Thanks a lot. Facing these challenges and mastering at the end the technology, that is a good news. And also from the airport, as we heard, making us almost sentimental in these times to hear these airport sounds. So good trip to you. We hope you're still online when we have the discussion. If not, thanks a lot. We are going to the next speaker. Again, a little shift from the original schedule due to availability. I would like to introduce Dr. Christof Vosseler. He's a policy advisor for climate change adaptation at the Ministry of the Climate Protection, Environment, Mobility, Urban and Housing Development of the Free Hanseatic city of Bremen. So, we have states in Germany, and each state has own ministries, and Bremen is one of these states to get an idea of that. And there he is responsible for the implementation and development of climate change adaptation strategies. So he's talking about the practitioner experience and also, of course, a lot of projects that he is coordinating or that he has been part in. And his talk is about how water-sensitive planning can contribute to building resilience and climate change adaptation. Examples from Germany. Thank you very much, Christof, and we look forward to your presentation.
Thank you very much for the introduction. I tried to open my camera and my microphone. I hope you can hear me and see me as well.
Yes, we can.
Possible. And then I try to
both
share my screen. It's working, I guess. It's a bit slow. Okay. Now it should be all right. Is it okay? So you can see my presentation?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So thanks. I don't know if I can add so much after that brilliant presentation you shared already, but maybe I can contribute some practical aspects coming from, let's say, strategies to implementation in the city. I can share some, let's say, experiences, some cases which we are tackling and we try to implement in Bremen. And I show you what is Bremen. Bremen is in the northwest of Germany, close to the North Sea. You see on the left-hand side, you see Bremen, and right-hand side you have Bremerhaven. So the federal state of Bremen consists of two cities. One is Bremen and one is Bremerhaven. And if you look at that picture, you already have an idea what is our focus in climate resilience. If you talk about climate resilience, it's about water, of course, it's about green areas, and it's of course about dense urban areas. So these are the three focus areas you already can recognize if you look at the pictures. So if you we look in both pictures, we look downstream the River Weser, which is at that area still influenced by tides. So we are facing from the front, let's say, looking ahead, looking downstream, we are facing the sea level rise. So the difference between high tide and low tide is still 4 meters in Bremen, so it's quite a lot. We are from the backside, let's say, we are, of course, have to deal with flooding as well. And from above with stormwater, and from beneath also with changes in groundwater due to sea level rise. We expect changes in groundwater salinity, but also the level of groundwater. So these are, let's say, 4 dimensions of water we are dealing with in terms of climate adaptation. I will share some very simple practical examples I want to share with you. I know that water sensitive cities is much more than these little examples, but with these little examples and simple ones, we can easily or nicely talk about the challenges we have to introduce and implement all these measures. On the right-hand side above, you see the green roofs, well known to everybody. So implementation of green roof is one of our activity. We're trying to promote that. On the right-hand side, lower side, you see decentral retention and infiltration in a, let's say, urban area. It's a housing area, small housing. I think this picture is even from Hamburg. I'm not sure, but you see the water flows into that pit and stays there for a while, can infiltrate, and the overflow goes into the drainage system. On the left-hand side, you see the measuring. I don't know if you can see my mouse here. Unsealing, very simple measure to improve the infiltration in the city. Doesn't matter if you follow a water sensitive city approach, sponge city approach, whatever. I mean, every approach says, okay, you have to infiltrate, decentralized water treatment, all these things. So this is one possibility we try to implement. And of course, this is no structure for heavy trucks, but for usual cars, it's possible to make that parking a lot, let's say, the parking slot like that. Another point is city trees. We promote, we try to increase the number of trees and also select climate adapted trees, climate resilient trees in the city, which is also a very difficult task, and to the challenges I come very soon with that. Another activity we try to, or let's say another activity we have are several information strategies. As you know, I mean, somebody said this morning, value ground. Yeah, lots of the ground is owned by private people, not only public space, but also a lot of people own their own ground, and of course they have to do it by themselves. So what we developed in the recent years, or the colleagues from the water department, some kind of stormwater information system. What you see above, these blue areas are all flooded areas, theoretically flooded areas. So they designed a map which is open access. Everybody can access it in the internet and see, is my house, could that be flooded in case of stormwater? If you have a very heavy rainfall, will it be, is there danger of flooding or not? If you want, you can also ask our water company, Hansewasser Bremen. You can ask them for advice. It's free of cost. And they come to your house and advise you, show you what you could do on your land to protect your house, to protect your belongings. But still, Lars was saying, how do we get from data to decision? If you look at that, then we provide information. Yeah, we provide data, we put them into form, provide information, and then even they get advice. But we don't know whether they really do some precautionary measures or not then afterwards. I mean, it's up to them to do it. And let's say from another project, also BMBF funded project called Brazilian, we know that it's quite complex, actually, the decision-making process for people, whether they implement such precautionary measures or not. I mean, you can guess, or you probably know, yeah, just information is not enough. People do not react on information. There must be much more. And after that analysis, or let's say the analysis came up with a nice or an interesting aspect, which says the main reason that people implement precautionary measures in their own housing area, let's say, or for their own land is the peer group, let's say, the neighbors, the friends, the parents, or the family. What do they think about, and do they do it as well? So this is the most important trigger for them, or incentive to do it as well, because it's kind of common sense then for them. I don't know how we what we do with it, with that information, with our information system, but it's I think that's one important point. And if you translate that to cities, it can also, you could also translate it, and which was said by or by Nazmul before, this city-to-city learning network from ICLEI is maybe a good or a good opportunity that mayors, that people from administration learn from other cities. They don't learn from academics usually very often, but the city learn from city very often. I could realize in the last years. What we also have is a green roof cadastre, which shows the green areas. These are roofs, all of them are roofs, which are potentially there you can put a green roof on it potentially, but of course it's also only information. So if people really do that, it's up to them. So for new areas or for new buildings, we have a local law that above 100 square meter you have to, and if you have a flat roof, let's say, and have a roof more than 100 square meter, you have to have either a green roof or you have solar panels on it. So this is already so. And now let's come to some challenges with these, even these simple, let's say, simple measures I was talking about. You see that that two trees in the picture above, and I want to highlight that space in the built city. I think we have to differ also between new areas we develop. We can do a lot in that, and we can show good examples and everything. But it's very difficult to change existing infrastructure, to change the built city, the existing city. So space is not only on the surface, it's a problem, but also underneath. Of course, you have a lot of water supply, you have gas pipelines, you have electricity. Almost no street, or no, in every street, you have these supply systems, and you can't just plant a tree somewhere. You always have to consider that. That's a very, let's say, that's a big limitation, let's say, for planting trees. And of course, if you think about this decentralized management system, you also have this challenge of maintenance, of cleaning. If you want to have a, let's say, secure and safe flow of the water, then you have to get the litter off, you have to cut the grass, you have to, all these things of maintenance. And all this question of maintenance are really a challenge also for cities, which are not always rich. I mean, we are a rich country, but we have quite some poor cities. Also, Bremen is not very rich actually, and so we have to deal with all that, let's say, financial issues as well on the city level. Another aspect where I see a large potential actually is to integrate this co-benefits or benefits in decision making and planning processes also. We analyzed in that Brazilian project as well the cost benefit. We did cost benefit analysis of trees, I mean city trees, and also green roofs. And if you analyze it and calculate it and put all the benefits together and relate it to the cost, then you have in all measures, you have much more benefit than costs. If we are in planning procedures, we are very dominated by financial issues, and we focus very, very often on costs. And I think there's a large potential if you talk about benefits. That's a long way probably, but it changes the perspective. And what we heard from Hamburg as well, to change the perspective to this impact, to an impact perspective, I completely agree with that. I like that, but still it's very difficult because we have the due to our budgeting system, due to many reasons, we always focus on costs. How much does it cost at the end? So, one challenge is another one. I mean, many people were talking about, many presenters, how to integrate that into planning procedures. We have quite some projects now where we could integrate it into planning procedures somehow, but we still have to keep in mind that planning is very difficult in that case, because planning has to integrate so many aspects, and it's the mindset is changing slowly. It takes time also that the mindset storm. Professor Wong always said we need also said this morning, like we need inspiring or policies that enabling policies, I think was the word. Yes, we need that, I'm sure. And I can say after now maybe 15 years we were working on that climate resilience, we slowly get let's say response from other ministries who integrate that ideas in their papers. For example, development of industrial areas or something like that, which is a success, of course, but it took like 15 years hard work, that it's like more common sense for them. And this is a good, let's say, a good opportunity, but still there's a long way to go, I feel. And this is also the last picture here from to overcome the gap between strategy and implementation. I would completely agree with all people who said start with one project and try to scale it up. Sorry for that misspelling on that. I could have put there also like maybe just do it or something like that, and accept that planning processes have to integrate so many aspects, and let's say be satisfied if you only put or integrate a little bit of your water ideas into the planning process, and accept that there are many others who have to be considered as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Christof. Very much information. Is that like we learn a lot from the example from Bremen, and also I think that like we have a question for you, but like we will ask you stay with us in the round table, and then there's a question for you. Let me introduce the next and the last speaker for today, Professor Phong from Vietnam Academy for Water Resources. He will present on the presentation on the localization of SDG 6 and 11 in the city of Vietnam and for sustainable futures. So just a few introduction for Dr. And Professor Tung Phong. Is a Deputy Director General of Vietnam Academy for Water Resource, and with over 25 years of experience in the water resource management and environmental science, disaster risk management. And he has extensive work related to interface of water resource and policy instrument to facilitate the adoption and transfer of technologies and decision-making processes. Besides that, he's also been a frequent collaborator with international organizations such as World Bank and ADB. So we are happy that like Professor Phong is with us today, and I think we need to keep the time. So Professor Phong, please start, and then we keep the time.
Okay, thank you, and good afternoon to everyone. Thank you very much for giving me the chance to present the topic on the localization of SDG 6 and 11 in fast-growing cities of Vietnam, the planning for the sustainable futures. So the 17th global SDGs have been nationalized into 115 Vietnam's SDG targets. Is a national action plan for implementation of the 2030 agenda for sustainable development based on the Vietnam's development context and priorities. So many SDGs also being integrated to this program, and also many policies and laws and socio-economic development strategies and plan, as well as action plan of ministries, agencies, and the provinces. So the different level in the provincial level, district level, and also even the commune levels. So in the slide, there's some decisions issued by the Prime Minister in 2012 or 2019 for the SDG target of Vietnam until the 2030s. So the second one is the following our government's regulations and instructions. So the localization and integration would already included and harmonized and also copped to the national target program and international commitment. So let's say the decision number 2163 or decision number 1474 or decision number 23, and even also the national target program on new rural development also integrated to the SDG development plans. So for the institutional arrangement for SDG implementation in Vietnam, we have the National Assembly. In the government, under the government, we have the National Council for Sustainable Development and Competitive Enhancement, and also Internal Sector Working Group on SDG. So and also under this system, we have many provinces, many ministries and agencies involved, and of course the UN's development partner also involved. So for the water supply and sanitation sector in Vietnam, we have many ministries and agencies relating to these issues. One is for rural water supply, the Ministry of Agriculture and Development. For rural sanitation and hygiene, we have Ministry of Health, and urban water supply and urban sanitation in charge of the Ministry of Construction. Is a national level. In the provincial level, we have a provincial committees and also the Department of Agriculture and Development, Department of Health, and Department of Construction. And also at this level, we have and also the community level, we have also similar agencies. Some relevant SDG targets, talking about the achievement and SDG 6 related target, we already achieved the proportion of households having access to safe water reaching 93.4% in 2018. In comparison with goal is at 19 to 95% in 2020. For the SDG 11 related target, we have the national floor area person increased from 16.7 square meters into 2009 and to 23.4 square meter in 2017. And the collection and treatment of non-solid waste has improved with approximately 80% treated in 2019 and 18. And some difficulties is the only 44 have sewage treatment practices up to required standard. So this is a very, also one of the very big challenges for us. The second one is the ratio and collected and treated waste is 12%, and 50 wastewater treatment plants are being designed or constructed with total design capacity of 2.2 million cubic meter per day night. For the target by 2020, so 20% of wastewater is collected and treated properly. By 2030, up to 50% for secondary city, urban and urban area. So the target set for SD 6 in the sanitation sector until 20 is quite challenging for Vietnam to achieve. And another one is the price for the safe and affordable drawing limit is still too high. So it's very difficult for the poor and the near poor household. So the status of sanitation sector in Vietnam can be shown in the slide. So if you look at that, you will see that in big city like Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City, just around 13% wastewater collected and treated properly, even through capacity of the wastewater treatment system can be higher. And especially in 2019, so 12.5% total wastewater treated. This is some figures that of the water and sanitation program in Vietnam that's invested and supported by the international donors through the ODA project. And you see the ADB and World Bank, JICA, and German Development Bank and Dutch ODA. So now it is some major challenge for the water sensitive urban development. The first one, the tariff. The wastewater tariff is built on the principle of the polluter pay. However, the wastewater tariff collection according to the current decree is not enough to pay for the operation and maintenance of sewer and wastewater treatment plants. Now only meet around 20 to 30% of the treatment costs. The wastewater tariff fixed to 10% of water supply price, while the cost to the treat 1 cubic meter of wastewater to meet the discharge standard is comparable to that of clean water treatment, if not higher. For example, in Hanoi City collected roughly $9 million per year from the waste tariff, but the O&M cost of the sewer and wastewater treatment plant is around $44 million. So quite big gap among the collected tariff and the cost for the treatment. So many urban areas, and mostly in secondary and tertiary cities, do not have the wastewater collection system connected to treatment plant. So it's directly discharged to the environment irrigation channel. And there's a lack of the inter-sector water-related infrastructure management in the cities between the wastewater, clean water, stormwater, sustainable development, and water resources management citywide, development of green infrastructures. So with the current administrative structure, it's very difficult for the city to coherently develop integrated water management for the city. And different planning phases of the different sector results in the different implementation plans. So which ends up causing the disruptions in the fulfilling the potential of infrastructure projects. And the other one is different investment criteria for the different area and different donors. So resulting is a mismatch in the setting of the priorities. And also just recently planning law is in place to ensure that development projects are coordinated to generate the desired impact. So this is example from in town in secondary city. This city is supported by the project funding by ADB, and the city implemented a series of hard side and soft side measures to preserve and enhance quality of Damvak Lake and the heat shore life. So this also combined environmental improvement and the public partnership in a lakeshore development showcase integrated holistic approach. This project also included the development interface with the target program on the wastewater collection, treatment, flood and storm improvement through the synergistic development process with the proper planning activities. So this is some indicators of the city that they would like to achieve. So this synergetic development of this lake included environmental improvement, drive economic growth. So this is now some conclusions. So it can say that Vietnam has surpassed its SDG commitment regarding to the clean water supply, but it's behind on the sanitation targets, which predicted very difficult to meet its current pace. A holistic and integrated planning has been expressed in Vietnam actions plans, SDG, green growth, or climate change action plans, and so on. But this will not all happen at once. Therefore, strong coordination is needed, especially in uniting different action plans. There should be consideration on the incentive mechanism to share the burden between the clean water supply and wastewater collection and treatment through innovative financial scheme. The next one is lower land use tax. So for the developers applying green infrastructure that supports cleanup of the storm waters and wastewaters. The public and private partnership in investment in sanitation sector is needed and also encouraged. Of course, it needs a lot of the supporting policy to develop the investment, to encourage the model. So NBS and water sanitation urban development have been considered as piloting in some areas, but still lack many factors to widespread application, benchmarking or standardizing, integration in the urban plans activities, financing, and other innovative solutions. So still depend a lot of the policies and also the instruction from the government how to disseminate it and how to integrate it into another program of the government of the nation, in the national level, at the district level, in provincial levels. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Professor Phong. Now we are entering the roundtable discussion. So I would like to invite Professor Lars. Please go ahead and then putting some leading question to our speakers, please.
Thank you very much. So perhaps we can start with some of the questions from the audience. There's one question actually two questions to Christof Vosseler. No? One is if you are expecting a major flooding in Bremen from the Weser, so in the next 100 years, and if yes, how are you planning to include that?
Yeah, I can answer that quickly. If I'm allowed to, Lars, or do you wanted to?
Yeah, no, that's true.
Okay.
Exactly. That is the
okay.
idea.
Yeah, I think the risk of a flooding downstream from the River Weser is not that high, but of course we deal with storm surges, we deal with sea level rise, and at the moment we are hiring the dikes actually. Again, 1 meter, around 1 meter, but maybe which is interesting for you is that this hiring of the dikes, this construction work is done in that way that another 1 meter can easily be topped on afterwards. So if you see in 50 years, as some, or maybe in 20 or in 80 years, that it's not enough, we can easily put on top another meter without having to change the construction itself. So this is kind of what we call a low regret measure. So we put some more money in it and to let's say improve the basement of the dikes so we can handle it afterwards easier. So.
Thanks a lot. And there, can I add another question, perhaps, Christof? That is from Adrian. So the question, I think you can see it in the Zoom, no? The relation of cross-sectoral collaboration with the different departments, no? So is there any kind of funding for this cross-sectoral working groups? Because you have the departments, and then who's taking care of this integration, and is there a special let's say effort to that?
very good question, actually. Very difficult question, because I feel that we are, in general, administration is not very good in that cross-sectoral thing. I mean, some people say break down that silos or something like that, but then you have only broken silos. I mean, that makes no sense just to break down silos. You have to, improve the situation or find a solution. And one reason for it, I think, is that we have a budgeting, sector-wise budgeting system, which makes it difficult. So it would help probably to have cross-sectoral budgeting, definitely, what you mentioned, Lars, and also maybe to implement more and more this project work. In administration is not the organization of administration at city level or ministry level, whatever, is not really prepared to do project work. The planners, they can do it. So, but for the planning department, you need much more emphasis and much more people and experts to deal with all that questions, I feel. So I have not really a good answer. I only can add some more questions to it. But I think a cross-sectoral budget would be fine, and to define and to clarify in an administration that there are projects, this is kind of work, and who has to contribute to it and who has to be involved would be a first good step, actually.
Thank you, Christof. So I would like to intervene here. I just want to put one question for all our presenter as well as for our audience in the city and also from Indonesia and other Laos, Cambodia. So looking at the situation of urban water and wastewater management in Southeast Asia cities, so why aren't goals achieved on aspect of water sanitation and urban resilience and related to infrastructure? And is that due to the capacities or due to the solution? So anyone that can address some part of that, so we can learn more from the experience. Anyone that can be able to address some part of that, please?
Trinh, could you please reformulate the question again?
Regarding the question is that why aren't goals achieved regarding the water sanitation factor in the urban areas of Southeast Asian cities? Is that related to the capacities or related to the solution itself?
While I'm not an expert on Southeast Asian context, but I can also bring some examples from what is happening in South Asia, where I am from Bangladesh, in urban context, especially water and sanitation. There are, and that is the same problem all over again and again, that seeing water and sanitation as a sector rather than having a component of urban living, having an integrated component of the whole urban planning. And if you look at the planning authorities and their division of task in city of Kolkata, city of Delhi, and city of Dhaka, it's everywhere that a certain body is responsible for on particularly water and sanitation, and very often they do not collaborate with other departments, but somehow the impacts of water and sanitation is somehow connected to the other departments and overall quality of lives in urban cities. So that is the very basic planning problem in many of the cities or mega cities in our regions, that they do not often see the problem from a holistic or systemic perspective, rather see it is their own, and they perpetuate the problem in order to keep their power intact. So it is more or less a governance problem rather than solution problem, I would say.
Thanks, Nazmul. Anyone want to address that also? I would like to invite our host from Berlin, Brian and others. If you want to have any question for our speakers, please. Ben, Anna, Greta.
I would like to ask a question if I can.
Yes, go ahead.
what we heard about from ICLE, we heard about sort of peer-to-peer learning, city-to-city learning, and I wanted to ask Christof from Bremen, what are cities that you were impressed with, that you networked successfully with, and how did that really work? What did you find really most meaningful as a format of engagement?
Format of engagement is difficult because depends very much, I would say. But yes, we are in many, let's say, networks, city networks also, and try to get some benefit out of it also. But to be frank, you have to invest a lot to get really the benefit out of it. You need a lot of time and you need the backing of your, let's say, of your office, of your structure, that at the end you benefit from it. That's sometimes difficult actually to follow all this. And we, let's say, we have more networks on a sector-wise approach, like water people are connected to water people and things like that. So they speak the same language, and so we have very few kind of cross-sectoral networking where all different departments are involved, something like this. It's just a question of time and resources. People are not available all the time, and they can't spend a day on that or something like that. So, but still, this gives us a good possibility. I think it's a good way because in general, let's say, I don't know how it is in Southeast Asia, but in Germany, it's, I mean, this policy administrative system is very much driven by fear, you know, not to make mistakes. You know, if you always try not to make mistakes, that you don't get blamed by public or by people, then you're not very open to follow innovative actions or implement innovative solutions. So if you see other cities are doing it, then it helps a lot in the communication with politicians to show, you know, there are good examples, almost common sense. You know, we are somehow early follower or even a front runner or whatever with that idea, but it's somehow in the science world of science, and so it's a good idea, and it works. You know, you can see one or two examples that it works. So I like that peer-to-peer learning, but I must say the time and the resources you need it's quite a lot actually to get the benefit out of it. So you should not underestimate that actually. Sorry for speaking so long.
Thank you very much. Not too long. It was addressed to you, so there was a good answer, and perhaps addressing a very big challenge, you know, how to arrange all that in order to come to manageable solutions at the end. And before we conclude, we are almost over time now, or we are over time officially, but we can let's say take 2 more minutes, perhaps. Perhaps also in the sense of the question of Trinh. Why is it not working? I like the question of Adrian saying, are there also good examples? So there are cities in Southeast Asia where the progress to meet SDG targets has been above average. And if anyone has an example, or it could be also in other regions, but I think we talk about Southeast Asia here. Is there an example of a well-performing city, and why did it work well? So that if anyone has an example for that, it would be interesting to conclude perhaps with a positive sign. Perhaps too spontaneous, but
well, maybe I can not really answer but give comment. Maybe if you are asking about the whole comprehensive answer on achieving SDG, maybe it's difficult to find, especially in Indonesia. But if we can learn, what we can do is to learn a piece of best practice from several cities, and a collection of so many small best practices will provide, you know, collectively a nice comprehensive sample for the whole issue of SDG. That's what I see, because I did, for example, small research in Denpasar, Bali, and we learned some small practices, but not the whole 17 goals of SDG.
Thank you very much. So Nazmul, you had your hand up. Is there still a final
yes,
comment?
I was referring back to the previous question, who is Christof answered, basically on peer-to-peer learning. And from my experience, this is also very much challenging because we are working on a very much competitive space, meaning that a lot of networks, a lot of NGOs are working on the same motto, same slogan to bring the same cities on board. And that is why for the cities, we ourselves, the practitioners, make the field even more difficult to actually realize the benefits of peer-to-peer learning. We just confuse the cities in many instances, going to them with many different offers, many different avenues, many different entry points, and sometimes it's very much counterproductive.
Very good last comment. So there's a need for even more coherence. No, that is what we see. Diversity is good, but if it is too diverse, then it may also be distracting. And so we can think about how we, instead of developing new ideas and new approaches, perhaps before that, looking what is already there and how can we connect to the existing. So that could be a good plead for all of us. And so now we are over time, as I said. The next session is starting soon. If there is no further comment, Trinh, I would allow then to close that session. Thank you very much. We had some ups and downs with the technology, but still mastered it, I would say. We had interesting insights from different parts of the world. Thank you very much for this and a nice discussion. So I am very enriched after this, and I hope that others share this impression. And thanks a lot to all of you, and see you soon. There's a 10-minute break now, and then the next session will start at 12:05. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank
you.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks, Lars. Thanks, Nazmul.
Bye-bye, Trin.
And
Talk to you
Christof.
soon.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.